the majority opposition can't be allowed to abuse the rules to protect themselves and at the same time override those rules that protect the minority.
A parliamentary committee under the chairmanship of someone who is clearly willing to violate the rules egregiously over an entire summer with no recourse to shutting it down or stopping it or limiting the damage that it can do in a matter that is before the courts, that is highly partisan and very, very charged, it seems to me, is a recipe for the kind of disaster that would seriously put this institution into disrepute.
To make it very clear that my point of privilege this morning has to do with my freedom of speech, my ability to express myself on issues.
But chairs must follow the rules of Parliament. I, as the chair of the industry committee, cannot arbitrarily determine things. I have to follow a set of rules. I have a clerk, a very capable clerk, who advises me as to what those rules are, procedurally, whether motions are in order or not. And in my view, what's happened in this situation is the fact that the rules were not followed. The fundamental right of members of Parliament to speak, the fundamental right of freedom of speech, was not followed in this instance. I refer the Speaker to page 71 of Marlowe Maupetit, which states, "By far the most important right accorded to members of the House is the exercise of freedom of speech in parliamentary proceedings." Now, Mr. Speaker, as you know, this House and committees can allocate time to the length of speeches, but that was not done in this case. Now, I had three parties saying to me quite loudly, "Cut the member off, get to the point, we want to pass this bill," but I did not. Even though I do not share the same party as that member, I allowed the member to speak because it was his right to do so. It was a fundamental right of free speech to speak on that issue. It pains me to say this, there are a number of committees that have become dysfunctional. Mr. Speaker, you took a very strong step in this place, of standing in this place as our Speaker and admonishing us and saying that the rules at committee must be followed, that chairs cannot step outside those rules. They do not have authority to do so. You were right to stand in this place and do so. Mr. Speaker, I implore you to rule on this point of order and find in favor of the Chief Government Whip, because if we do not do so, my fear is more and more committees will become dysfunctional, more and more committees will look at unsubstantive things, and I hear members across laughing. Well, I would just put in the members of the Bloc Quebec Bloc and talk to the members on the Industry, Science and Technology Committee about how we can focus on substantive issues. But the fact is, Mr. Speaker, if we get away from substantive issues and if we allow chairs to unilaterally make decisions that are not in accordance with the rules of this place, the fact is we will have more dysfunctional committees and we'll have a more dysfunctional Parliament, and that is not what any of us should want in this place.
Hear, hear. Now, observing the way the committee meeting was going, I saw the chair over and over again cut off the mic. He turned around in his chair to signal the switcher. And he heard things that he didn't like. He cut them off. It wasn't that they were out of order or that they were repeating, but he cut them off. Those offensive words that caused him to interrupt me? When he said, he named my name, "You have the floor," I said, "Thank you, Mr. Chairman," 4 words. And then he interrupted me. He was on that was because I observed that the chair was always interrupting members when they spoke. Interestingly, Mr. Speaker, at that point he cut me off. All I was asking was that I would not be cut off, and with that he did. And you know, Mr. Speaker, what is so incredible? This is what I said, direct quotation. "I have a couple of things, Mr. Chairman, that I would really like to have on the record. This means that I'm asking you, please, to not shut off my mic while I'm speaking. As an MP who is," and I was going to go on to say, "I have the privilege of expressing myself," and I wanted to cut off the tendency he had to not allow anybody to speak. You know, Mr. Speaker, what the chair did on this particular occasion was because there was a motion on the floor and there were not enough Liberal members on the committee that were present, the chair did not call the meeting to order on time. In fact, he delayed the meeting for 7 minutes until Liberal members had dragged themselves in there. And then finally, he called the committee to order. Finally, he did that.